Welcome to Fear Coded, a podcast where we talk about media from the horror genre and take a queer reading of a single book, video game, film, podcast, or TV show to explore just how queer horror can be. And in this episode, we're talking about the 1974 horror classic Black Christmas, directed by Bob Clark and written by Roy Moore. I'm David.
I'm Marilee.
And I'm Tyler.
And before we go pledging Pi Kappa Sigma, I want to check in and say hello with my co-hosts on how things are going for them in a landscape of horrors that our real world has to offer. What is making y'all scared, or what is making you feel prepared?
Well, do you hear that sound? I hear some footsteps on my roof.
Wow, you should really get a permit before you have roof work done, Tyler.
Well,
Yeah.
not
Like during a podcast recording? Come on.
Well, I'm sorry for being inconsiderate, but this time it's not my fault. Instead, I think it's the big man in red himself, Santa, is on his way.
That's right. This is our Christmas episode, which is why we are covering a film with Christmas in the title. So, Tyler, do you have a scared or prepared in the big sack that's been brought into you?
Oh, man, am I prepared for that big sack from the man in red? Love Santa's big sack sliding down my chimney.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Wow. Slide right on down.
Slide right on down. No, I am feeling prepared. I actually really enjoy the holiday season. Something that I really, really love, and I hope my friends that I do this with are listening. Hi, everybody, if you are. My friends and I, because we all kind of come from different backgrounds, we have a big holiday party called Christmaka, where we combine Christmas and Hanukkah together. And I am coming from that, and it was a great time. We ate delicious food. There was music. We played games. We all chatted. We got to do our regular sort of exchange of like, this is the Hanukkah story, this is the Christmas story. And my best friend and I, because we're both former Catholics, always get pretty tipsy or drunk and retell the story of Jesus for our Jewish friends.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's super fun.
Tyler, is the notion of Christmaka borrowed from the OC that famously patented the phrase, or do you think your group came up with this independent of the award-winning OC?
In spite of having been in that audience for the OC, that audience age range where we were in high school when the OC was on, none of us actually watched the OC. Yeah, so this was a purely like a pure creation that my friends and I came up with. This combo of high school and college people, and it's like our big event. We planned for it, like basically like the whole year is kind of building up to it. So yeah, it's delightful. I love it.
I am so happy about that. What will you get drunk on this year?
So normally I will actually make my own mulled wine.
Nice.
Wow.
Delicious.
Yes.
Love a
it's
mulled
so
wine.
good. I love mulled wine. I am also just kind of like a very basic mixed drink girly.
Okay.
So probably just like spiced rum and coke, maybe with some lime, or something that my best friend, she's kind of like an amateur mixologist. She'll make something and it'll be delicious.
I love that for you.
Yeah.
I noticed that you didn't talk about eggnog.
We're not an eggnog people, David.
Tell me why. Tell me why.
Why?
No
It's a
eggnog?
texture thing. I think it's also like a cultural thing. I don't think eggnog is really big in Florida.
Marilee's confirming this. Marilee has non-verbally confirmed.
I also don't like eggnog. It was never really a thing where I grew up, but also I have another texture thing. Like, the thing about eggnog is it's so thick and rich that when I drink it, I can feel it like coating my tongue.
Yeah.
And I simply cannot. I will not. No, thank you. I'm really good on that one, besties. You are welcome to your egg-based drink.
Yeah. So I think I've told this story on maybe other podcast spaces, but not here on Fear Coded. When I was a child, my grandmother had converted from Judaism to Catholicism.
Mm-hmm.
And so we put on a lot of the finery of Christmas, but it tortured her so that she would change some things. And one of the things she changed is she would serve eggnog, but she wouldn't call it eggnog. And so I grew up as a child calling it special milk.
Oh my God. I remember that story. I forgot.
Yep. We had a family recipe that I still make to this day. But when I got to college, I told my friends that I would bring the special milk. And when you say that with 18 and 19-year-old boys, there is a separate way that may come across, I think, to adolescent men. Yeah.
Well, drop that recipe, David. I want to know your.
I will.
I want to taste your special milk.
I will. Everyone does. I will put it in the show notes. I would love people to enjoy some eggnog this holiday. Our recipe doesn't have, because we are, in addition to being Jews turned Catholics, we are also like increasingly white, and so there are no spices in it. You should probably add like nutmeg or something to it if you're looking for that kind of flavor. And then if you would like to add booze, I will make recommendations for booze.
Excellent. Well, what about you
Fantastic.
two? Are we feeling scared prepared this holiday season?
I am feeling scared. It is not because of Christmas. I am not scared of Christmas. Christmas holds no fear for me. The holidays in general hold no fear for me, even though I have social commitments, which I think everyone is aware of how I feel about these things. Mm-hmm. And Tyler has specifically been guiding me through some therapeutics around it. My fear around this time right now, the time of recording, is just that it's the new year is coming, and this is a time that I always get sort of belabored by the idea of what has come, and we are part of this entire sort of I was here thing. So it's my Spotify Wrapped has come out, Letterboxd is telling me all the movies that I watched, PlayStation's like, here's the games you didn't finish, you slug. So I am feeling very overwhelmed by all the things that have happened this year and the reflection back. I think part of that is I had a whole Twitter archaeology project where I went back through Twitter and like looked at all of my banger tweets and just like took screen caps of them and was like, oh, remember how funny I was? So I don't know. I guess I maybe I'm a little prepared from this as well, so I'm sort of putting a foot in both circles here, but I am genuinely feeling a little scared because this time just it hangs on me a little bit.
Yeah,
I get that.
Yeah, I'm also feeling scared for the kind of the same reasons. You know, like I'm not ready for next year. I also, again, I do the holidays baking for my family again, so like I'm probably I'm like deeply stressed out about like if all of the pies are going to spontaneously combust or something.
It would be an act of God. There would be a new holiday, Marilee, that you would have to then make pies for.
Again, I would. But like, you know, Christmas is pretty important to us. Like, and it's not as big of a deal because our Christmas like traditions are a little different anyway, because my brother-in-law Murphy, he was born on Christmas, so like for years so like we don't celebrate Christmas per se. It's more like Murphmas because we put more Murphy into Christmas.
God. I love that though.
That sounds like it could be a Gimmicks holiday episode.
Murphmas.
Yeah,
Merry
no,
Murphmas.
like listen, there were some wild traditions that we used to do before, like my sister had kids, and so like Christmas is a little bit more traditional now. Like,
sure,
we would make ornaments. It was great.
Pornographic ornaments?
That's correct.
Are you
love
serious?
This.
Oh my God.
100% serious. Like, it was a thing. We would go around to all of the adult stores, get as much physical pornography as we could, and then make Christmas ornaments out of that because Murphy thought it was funny. And you know what? He was right.
Was this something that you did while living in Florida?
No, absolutely.
Because I was gonna say, like, that is some of the most Florida kind of bullshit.
Nope, that's after my sister moved to Texas, baby. Like, we've all like moved here after that. But
I love it. It
was great. It feels so weird talking about ornaments, a tradition that my dad had no idea about, but like I'm also sad because my dad died a couple years ago, and it's always rough during the holidays when he's not here, and so I am also feeling pretty scared because I'm feeling a little blue.
Yeah. And here's the deal. Many people are scared during this time of the year. It's why we invented holidays, because every culture was like, oh no, the sun, it's gone. Gee, I hope it comes back. And not to ruin your Christmas celebration, Tyler, but that's sort of the story of everybody. Like, we were like, Will it ever be light again? Let's celebrate the light that we have. Oh, the sun is coming back. Yay.
Yeah. I love like solstice celebrations and like Yule and stuff like that, because it's so fun to me thinking, hey guys, this is the longest night of the year. So like we're
Scary.
halfway there, babes. We've come to the finish line. We just got to make it the rest of the way, and I think that that's really fun as a concept.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree. I think tracking. I mean, I think anybody who experienced the solar eclipse last year has a little bit of a sense of this, like just the true mysticism that the sun deserves. It deserves our worship.
Yeah, like listen, I'm so pale and from Florida, so the sun and I have a bit more of a contentious relationship. But like that bitch, she does deserve her flowers. So good for her.
Are we like propagandizing worshiping the sun here on Fear Code?
Yeah.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah.
That's our
Let's
official
go, baby.
stance.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm into it.
Yeah, I'm into it.
Yeah.
Well, there's not going to be a lot of sun for us to talk through today because we are talking about a film that is set in a cold month. So there's not a lot of sun to be had. And we're spending a lot of time at night in some very well-lit night scenes, though, because we are talking about Black Christmas, a 1974 Canadian horror film. When it was initially released theatrically in the United States, it was under the name Silent Night, Evil Night, and then retitled again for television screenings as A Stranger in the House. Bob Clark, the director, is one of the most profitable directors in all of Canada's history, even though he himself was American. Foreigners just stealing your jobs. And he's got a pretty wild, prolific set of films, but it makes sense that Black Christmas was pretty early on that, especially with follow-up stories or follow-up films that he made, like A Christmas Story and Porky's.
Wow, life is a rich tapestry, isn't it?
This man, he did it all. He directed Baby Geniuses, Tyler, the absolutely terrible 1999 film, which is important for CGI in the modern era, but was garbage.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that in theaters. I am not gonna lie.
I'm so sorry, Marilee. We could cover it because it's so horrifying.
I remember they would show it like during. So, quick backstory, and then I'll jump back into this. When I was at the same elementary school that my mom taught at, and I would go over to the school with her during the summertime, the school librarian would put on like a movie or something that was on all like the shared channels, on all the TVs. And I remember one time they put on Baby Geniuses, and I was watching it, and I was like, "Boy, this is hot dog water." Like
it is
not good.
I don't remember that movie at all, other than the fact that, I'm pretty sure I saw that in theaters. You could tell me anything happened in Baby Jesus, I might believe you. I've not ever thought of it since.
Marilee, wait until Mixed Reviews covers Bob Clark or covers Kathleen Turner, because either conversation, this is getting the 1-star review. Calling it now.
Well, back to this movie that I don't think deserves a 1-star review. Instead, this film follows a group of sorority sisters and their house mother who have been harassed by mysterious phone calls before they're stalked and murdered by a shadowy killer during the lead-up to the Christmas season. Roy Moore, the writer, said he was inspired by the urban legend of the babysitter and the man upstairs. In the year 2020, the actor Nick Mancuso, who played, quote, the Moaner, or Billy, as he's called later, claimed another inspiration was a real crime that took place in Westmount, Montreal in November 1943, where a 14-year-old boy bludgeoned his mother to death and severely injured his family with a baseball bat and never explained why.
When it was initially released, Black Christmas got mixed reviews from critics, but it has since gained a cult following of diehard fans and has had a critical reappraisal, particularly as one of the earliest movies in the slasher genre. It's also seen as important because John Carpenter has said it's one of the biggest influences on his mega smash hit Halloween 1978. Also in the Black Christmas franchise umbrella, there have been a novelization that was published in 1976 and 2 remakes, one in 2006 and one in 2019. What are your guys' histories with Black Christmas?
Yeah, so I think this was probably new for all of us, and we were looking for a Christmas movie. And I remember, I think I pitched this one, didn't I? Wasn't I the one who was like, let's do Black Christmas because Christmas is in the title?
I
sure, let's go 100%
believe it. Yeah.
Okay. And I did it in that goofy voice also.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I knew about it because our buddies Clayton and Sean covered it on Men Who Like Movies, and they just raved about it. And I was like, cool, it's Christmas. We should cover a Christmas movie. Let's watch this. And I had no idea just how formative and important this was to the slasher and horror genre.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of it, but I've never seen it before. I wasn't aware that this is where that line, the call is coming from inside the house, came from, which I don't think is exactly correct, because I think that also comes from When a Stranger Calls. Is that what it is?
Yeah, so those movies were also based on that same urban legend, which is sort of based on an actual crime, but like that's neither here nor there.
Marilee, what about for you?
Again, same story. I had heard of it. I knew how important it was, and I have seen like Halloween and other movies that really like directly, like were influenced by this film, but I had never considered watching it before, so it was new to all of us.
Yeah. But really glad I've seen it now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we did kind of touch on this. This is sort of an early example of one of the slasher movie genre. So let's talk about that as our main theme here. So we have slashers and genre displacement. So as we previously discussed in our Scream episode, slashers are a subgenre that typically feature a killer who may or may not be masked that brutally kills a bunch of people during the runtime of the movie in creative, violent ways, usually using a bladed or slashing weapon. Most movies also have a whodunit mystery, and the deaths usually happen to people who have transgressed against society or some sort of rule of society. However, as one of the first films in the slasher subgenre, Black Christmas doesn't really exhibit the tropes that slashers will later become known for. Notably, our final girl is not a virgin, and the sin factor, as described by Randy Meeks in Scream, that seems to be driving the majority of kills in your average slasher is entirely, if not mostly, absent. So, I want to know, what did you all think about this movie's lack of conformity to tropes, and does this count as a subversion if it's older than tropes in the supposed norm?
Like, truly the ways that this movie doesn't follow, like, the genre conventions that it helped found were, like, the most thrilling parts to me.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. I even thought, like, when I read the notes on this, and I was like, is Jess a final girl? Because, like, at the end, there is, like, I suppose she is a final girl at the end of the movie. But I don't think the curtain is long to stay open on Jess's life based on the end of this film.
Yeah, like there's a chance that she makes it, but simply there's no way of knowing.
Yeah.
Which I think makes this movie pretty bleak, which I was not expecting going into this. I didn't expect it to be kind of like as serious or campy as I initially thought it would be. We'll talk about this a little bit more later. I had some issues with some of the gags in this movie. I don't think they landed correctly for me. But normally in a slasher movie, there is some sort of like wink and a nod at the camera, most likely because a lot of slasher movies that I've seen have come post-Scream. But I do think that like this movie didn't really intend to subvert the rules of a slasher, but I do think like for a horror movie, the victims are pretty eclectic. So because these victims were all like different types, like character types, as opposed to your standard bog list of slasher victims, it felt a lot more brutal.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. I mean, the creative deaths, this is like a pre-Friday the 13th before like creative deaths gets turned up to 11. But I do see like some of the shared DNA of things that we would normally get to in other franchises that's laid out here. And I don't think you would have the iconic moments from Scream without Black Christmas doing this telephone work so well here back in the 1970s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's on me, but I never really connected the phone element of Scream to like the phone here, and what a fantastic pull. I loved that. Like that was when I thought about the similarities, like, cause there is a direct line between Black Christmas to Halloween to Scream.
Right.
But I never really considered like the phone, like jumping Halloween entirely. Like what? I'm sorry. I'm in love with your brain. Hold on a minute. I need to take a sec.
Marilee's proposing to my mind.
Yes.
Well, then I think it kind of almost goes without asking, but is this horror? What do we think about this movie as a piece of horror media? And were you scared watching back through this?
So yeah, I think the movie pitches a little too often into comedy, mostly like in the first act. And I think the second act is just kind of like a little busy. Like I enjoy it, but I think there's a lot going on. And upon first viewing, it's a little hard to see how does all this stuff kind of come together. And I don't think it always does, but I do think it has a lot of effective scares. I do appreciate that the audience is made culpable in the murders, since we see pretty much everything or almost everything from Billy's perspective. I think it adds a lot more to that kind of creepiness vibe, but I think it also adds a little bit more to the bleakness as well, because we're seeing this stuff happen and there's nothing that we can do to stop it because we're kind of the one perpetrating it. And I think that goes really, really well into making this movie feel much more unnerving, and it also hides that mystery of who is Billy.
Right. I loved all the POV work. I thought the POV work made this very scary. Almost all the time. We do switch POV a couple times. We obviously get it with Peter, but I think we're supposed to believe Peter is the moaner. And then in the third act, really final moments, we go into Jess's POV, and that is like super really scary. I think the third act of this one was pretty terrifying for me.
For sure.
I never got scared particularly by this movie, but if anybody says this isn't a horror movie, I would love to know by what definition they are defining horror. When John Carpenter says that he was inspired by Black Christmas, my God, he means it. Like, there's so much here that, like, goes on to affect and change how horror movies are made, even to this day. I loved it.
I mean, you can absolutely draw the line between Black Christmas and 1978's Halloween, because the original Halloween starts off entirely from the POV of Michael Myers.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I really thought about, and like the way that John Carpenter, like his cinematography in Halloween, I do think is also very Black Christmas in a way that I hadn't really considered before. Like the way that stuff is framed, I just think that it's all right there, and it's very obvious once you are looking for it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, then let's ask the other question that we ask of everything that we cover here on the podcast, which is it queer? So there's a fair bit of obnoxious heterosexuality here for us to navigate through. How can we discuss this and using our concepts of queer theory?
So I personally kind of struggled with this. I'm going to blame part of that being on, like, I'm listeners at home. If you can't tell, I'm getting over like pretty intense sinus infection plus bronchitis, like trauma twofer there. But it is something that I had a lot of difficulty trying to figure out how to apply queer theory to this, aside from like they're being hunted. It's a house full of same-sex people being hunted down by a heterosexual man. I think that's pretty terrifying on its own, but it's an extremely feminist movie. I will say that much. I think it's really helpful in this regard, and something to kind of keep in mind as we come up with our different queer theories, is to kind of look at the way that the authorities figures in this movie either completely fail or even sabotage the victims. The police are like completely ineffectual. The men are useless or actively hostile to the victims in this film. I think it's a shocking... I won't say it was a shocking critique, because I don't think that's what the creators of the movie were originally intending. But I do think in this era, 2024 going into 2025, where things are pretty scary politically for our most vulnerable populations, which is queer people, women, people who can get pregnant, etc. This is a stark reminder of, like, things are pretty dire. And so I think it kind of worked on an extra level of horror for me, because in spite of this movie having come out 30 years before I was born, a lot of the fears that are born through this movie are just as relevant today as they were back then.
Yeah.
For me, I think we are going to have a good time talking about Peter. Peter sort of serves as this antagonism throughout the film, and he is compulsory heterosexuality, which you know that I love, when he gets murdered.
Yeah.
So there's that. I do think, like, Tyler, you mentioned this, like, there's the feminist read on this. A lot of folks have talked about that. I think that you can look at the sorority house itself as sort of sexually liberating, both in a feminist way and I think a queer way.
I would agree.
And so I think maybe the house can serve. This is not a big spooky house. This is a big gay house.
There's nothing on the page that doesn't tell us that every one of the sorority girls, besides like the 3 that we see with boyfriends, they aren't all lesbians. There's where does it say that? Nowhere. So that's the text of the film for me now.
Yeah, but we got some floppy haired boyfriends all over the place because it's the 70s.
Oh my God,
I can't get away from them.
Amazing coats too.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Like if I could have the coats in this film, I would be so happy. Unfortunately, I would never use them, but I would open my closet and look at them with delight.
Just delight.
Thrilled by your takes. You guys are so smart always. Aww. It's so fun.
You are so smart, Marilee.
Oh, thanks. There's one more question that we simply must ask about this film. Is this a Christmas movie? It's in the title and in the setting, but is this really a horror Christmas film? It was released on December 20th in the United States, and it is frequently cited as a holiday-themed horror, but does this meet the criteria of being a Christmas movie? Discuss.
I say no.
I also say no.
I'm sorry, Marilee. I'm sorry. I think you can pull the Christmas right out of it. I truly don't. This is I think my biggest problem besides the second act, just being a little clunky clunk. I wish there was more Christmas in this. Like at one point in time, Peter breaks an ornament out of anger, and I was like, "Yes, motherfucker, throw the tree at her! Like, be mad!" And he doesn't go far enough to like use Christmas as a weapon. And I was like, "Fuck, we're not using Christmas as a weapon. It's barely driving the plot forward." I was so bummed that there wasn't more Christmas, because this is just lauded as this amazing horror holiday combo. And I wish it was more. I
do too. I think this movie does a really good job of using the aesthetics of Christmas as scenery. To me, it's so we won't get into this segue because then this will turn into a whole thing. I think Die Hard counts as a Christmas movie. I think because of the themes within Die Hard, which again, I'm not going to get too deep into because that'll turn this into a completely different podcast. But I think that movie uses Christmas in a way that makes it feel more like a Christmassy movie, as opposed to this, which I would put more in the category of movies at Christmas time that Eyes Wide Shut belongs to, where it uses these aesthetics and it kind of uses the music and everything else to just sort of fill in the background. But the core story and the core themes do not use Christmas to move the plot forward. You know, it's not about like, oh, I have to, the killer is doing this because Christmas time was, his family's like favorite time of year, and then the whole family went kaput or something like that. Or like, Peter's not like, why would you try and have an abortion at Christmas time when this should be all about family?
Peter would be the asshole who's like, don't have an abortion, it's Christmas, and then it's a Hallmark movie where he just tries to like be pro-life the whole film.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't think this is a very Christmassy movie, but I think it is a movie that takes place at Christmas.
Frankly, how dare both of you? You let Psycho be a Christmas movie, but you're not saying Black Christmas isn't a Christmas movie? What is wrong with you?
Psycho's about trying to get the family back together for the holidays.
Yeah, and paying your debts, which is like a Christmas thing.
How dare you? How dare you?
Here's the deal. Ginger Snaps is a film set in Canada, but it is not a Canadian movie. It was released in Canada. I do know that. But it wasn't like core to Canada. This movie is core. This is a Canadian movie, but it's just set around Christmas. It's not a Christmas movie.
How dare you? They're playing field hockey in Ginger Snaps. That is not a sport that we play in American high schools.
That is pretty Canadian.
That's true. You're right. You're correct. That's right.
Thank you. I am right. And I'm right about this too. Just because the movie doesn't, the theme, I will agree, doesn't necessarily tie too deeply into Christmas as a concept. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of what's going on, like especially in the early part of the film, the fact of the Christmas of all is like making things a little bit more complicated because of that holiday Christmas party that the sorority and the fraternity are doing for this underprivileged kids. Like people don't know
that's right.
where The girl
Claire.
is, and
Yeah.
like that simply wouldn't happen if this was at like summer break, if people were going home for, or like even for Easter, if people were going to like have this week vacation that way. Like there wouldn't be like the Christmas of it all. The fact that it's cold is so, like, Christmas is so deeply important to like the aesthetics of the film, the reason why like there are so few people there. The carolers, you're forgetting about the carolers.
I'm trying to. I've enlisted in therapy to get myself over them, Marilee, but no, you know what?
Infuriated.
Marilee's convincing me a little bit. I do wish this was more Christmassy. I guess a part of me wishes this was Nightmare on Elm Street also, because I want Billy to have been like, I wrapped you up like a present, like, but that's not this movie.
Mm-hmm. Like that you keep like aching for things that would happen later on the line, and like, while I agree that it would be more horror movie and stuff to have like little quips and things, this was a movie in the 70s. They didn't know that slashers were going to be a thing yet. This is just a movie set at Christmas. And the fact that it's textually Christmas, like all of these things happen. The fact that you're trying to deny its Christmas movie status for Clout, ashamed of you.
Clout chasing. You know what, Tyler, though? I think Marilee's onto something here, because the first victim is wrapped. The second victim is hung like mistletoe.
Ooh. Oh, shit.
And if I keep going, maybe we'll discover that there was more Christmas all along. Maybe
but
the
like
Christmas was really inside of us.
Was killed with an ornament.
See?
I think that one's a stretch.
Decorative ornaments still count. It's crystal.
I don't normally think of glass unicorns as being part of my Christmas decor.
Well, you gotta get better decor.
Well,
level up your game.
Oh, shit. Well, David, please save us before we tear each other's throats out over the holiday season. Actually, I can't think of a better way to celebrate the holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone. We hate each other here. We're all a little drunk, and we're going back up to our rooms, not talking to each other. No. Well, I do think we will keep an eye on the Christmas of it all as we go on, because I bet there are a little bit more that we can dig into here, which will just be fun for the three of us. But the movie does open with a POV shot from the moaner as he watches someone enter the sorority house before climbing the trellis into the attic and then down into the house to spy on the party breaking up downstairs. Jess answers a ringing phone before calling to everyone else in the house that it's the moaner. All the girls gather around as she holds up the phone, and they listen to the obscene phone call before Barb takes the phone and calls him a creep. In a very different tone, the moaner calmly tells her, "I'm going to kill you," and then hangs up, shocking Barb. Claire thinks they shouldn't confront someone like that. He could be dangerous, especially with the rape that just happened to someone who lived in town. Barb completely dismisses her, saying townies can't get raped. Yikes. And Claire gets upset and heads upstairs to finish packing. Just then, Mrs. Mack, the house mom, arrives with Christmas presents, so she and the sorority sisters head off to exchange gifts. Upstairs, Claire finds Claude, the cat, who Mrs. Mack had been looking for, and starts grabbing clothes from her closet, initially not realizing that something is wrong. After a moment, she heads back, asking who's there, and the moaner strangles her with a dry cleaning bag. No one downstairs hears anything as Mrs. Mack opens up the gift that the sisters got her.
Yikes.
Yes. There's so much yikes here, Marilee.
Yeah.
So much yikes.
Mm-hmm.
I assume that you're talking about this cute little onesie that Mrs. Mack got, that she is telling the camera is the ugliest piece of fabric that has ever been sewn into a garment.
Yeah, no, that's definitely what I meant. No, I think that there's a lot happening here that, like, this really sets everything up immediately. Like, the moaner, like, that obscene call is a lot.
It's a lot.
Margot Kidder's, line is a lot.
Yeah, Barb's wild. Barb is both the rape line and then her being proud that she shut down this obscene caller by being the fastest tongue in the West. And then she does a little bit of tongue work for the camera. Barb's a lot. Barb's got it going on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. But I can also totally like see that kind of exchange happening with Barb's character. especially because she does have a drink in hand pretty much the entire time that we see her. I think the movie actually does like a pretty good job of developing certain members of the sorority, and we learn quite a lot of each of these characters pretty quickly as a result, which I think is definitely a strength towards the script. And when I was doing research on this, I read that they had specifically wanted to make the sorority characters act like real college students and not just like, oh, Mr. Murderer, please don't murder me, kind of tropey slasher victims. So yeah, I will just say like the 70s, very, very different time from ours. I also think that Claire's murder is very upsetting. And the positioning of her body afterwards with the plastic bag over her head and how we keep returning to that image, very effective. Very, very effective.
Yeah, agreed. The idea that he was just like standing in her closet and she was right there next to him but didn't see him, that really got to me. Like I did not care for that.
Yeah. And it was before we really like knew that the POV was the moaner, right? Like, so at first I was like, oh, is the camera just in the closet? And this is just like this is the thing, is that in the 80s, this would have been used as a fake out scare. You know that I'm right?
Yeah.
But this is pre-trope, so it's a scare for scare's sake, and it is a scare because it's actually the POV of the moaner. It's really, really good. It works on like every level.
I also, the way that the killer very calmly says, I'm going to kill you, just after that, the completely different from the rest of the call, that really worked for me because it was so different and chilled. It chilled me.
Absolutely. David, I really want to talk about this screenshot that you included here in our notes, because I think it's wonderful.
Okay. Well, here's the deal. As soon as this gorgeous cat appeared, I had to pause the film on Tubi and go to doesthedogdie.com and figure out if Claude the cat was going to be okay. Because if Claude wasn't okay, I would still watch the movie, but I needed to know that Claude was okay. And the answer that was posted to this webpage was, there is a magnificent cat who does not come to harm. And I appreciated that and gave them an upvote for their answer.
He is magnificent.
He is magnificent.
If I were Mrs. Mack, I also would not have stopped looking for that cat.
Yeah.
Yeah. This cat is perfect.
Though, just to note, the rampant heterosexuality that is such a thing. She says later, I will have you fixed.
Yes.
What are you doing with an unfixed cat, my lady?
Well, as soon as she says that, her end is nigh, merrily.
Yeah.
Because you can't threaten this cat. Do not threaten this cat.
Maybe that's the real theme of this movie.
Yeah. That should have been on Randy Mix's rules from Scream. He should have been like, don't threaten animals or else you gets it.
Exactly. Above table here, do we want to talk about this line that Barb says about townies can't get raped, or do we want to move on to the next section?
The only one thing I'd like to spend a little bit of time on this with, and I know Marilee's already decried this, like this is an awful line. But I do think that it is part of this writing for a feminine character in the 70s that makes Barb more rough or tough or evolved in a way to say, like, women don't have to be prim and proper. They can have these really shitty takes too. And so I think in the feminist telling of all of this, I think Barb's an important character for us to track, but it's a really ouch line. It's got classism there because you're treating people who aren't in college different than people who are in college. It's obviously misogynistic. I wish that the line wasn't in the film, but I do understand its role in setting up Barb's character. That's the only thing I guess I will offer.
I'm pretty much 1-to-1 with you there, David. I think to me, just because I've known people who have gone to college in small college towns, and there is like a sort of class discrepancy there. There's a social discrepancy as well. There were actually quite a lot of movies like in this sort of 70s time period where there was that sort of conflict between like the yuppies and the new people and the townies. So I do think that this speaks to kind of like the time period as well. But I agree with you. I wish just the line wasn't in here, period. I do appreciate that everyone that hears Barb says this is like, Barb, come on, like, don't say that.
That's true. That's true.
But it is just like, boy, it just would have been better for Barb to have not said this line, period.
Yeah, the past is a strange country to which we could never return.
Yes, exactly. And perhaps that is a good thing after all. So, back to this movie, though. The moaner brings Claire's body up into the attic. Mrs. Mack sends the girls upstairs to bed. As soon as they vacate the living room, Mrs. Mack pulls out some alcohol from a hidden stash, takes a hearty swig, and then rushes to hide it when Phil and Jess go to answer the phone. Peter, Jess's boyfriend, is on the other line. She needs to talk to him in person, and they set up a time to talk tomorrow because it's important. Mrs. Mack grabs another hidden bottle of booze, this time from the toilet tank in the bathroom, and insults the gift that she was given, which was this sort of green floral nighty kind of deal. Acting like a completely different person while the sisters aren't around. Actually pretty similar to some drag queens.
Oh my god, Mrs. Mack would make a great Snatch Game if people could get the reference.
Absolutely.
Oh my god!
We need to
That's
do
so
like a Jinx and Ben de la Creme doing another Christmas special, but this time it's like horror themed.
Get it, girls.
Let's do it. Jess knocks on Claire's door and tries to talk to her, but respects her privacy after she doesn't answer and leaves. In the attic, the moaner has set up Claire's body in a rocking chair in the window and is rocking it, laundry bag still tied around her face. The next day, Mr. Harrison, Claire's father, waits to take her home, but she never arrives. He asks for directions to the sorority house. Once there, Mrs. Mack tells him she has no idea where Claire could be. Claire's bags are all packed, so maybe she's at the party that the sorority is throwing for kids? Mr. Harrison is unimpressed by the sorority, the decor, Mrs. Mack, and a photo of Claire's boyfriend Chris, but agrees to double-check the party and agrees also to give Mrs. Mack a ride there. While Mrs. Mack gets ready to go, she takes another drink from another secret bottle and complains to herself about Mr. Harrison when she hears Claude somewhere, sounding distressed, but she can't find him before it's time to go.
I think now is our time to just have some fun with Mrs. Mack. I do think, Tyler, this is a great place to hear a little bit more about how the effusive comedy maybe was from a different movie than this one, but I love her and would go to war for her. So
I am right there with you, David, because I just said, I really do love Mrs. Mack. I think her character is really great. I think the performance that's given is also fantastic. It's really it's not going to win Oscars or anything like that, but she knows what the job is and she's nailing it. I think some of it is a little bit too cartoony or a little vaudeville-y, but with all of the hidden bottles and the fact that that's played for laughs, I think is a little much. But I do think that she's fun. We kind of need to inject some humor into the film and a little bit of lightness after watching Claire get violently murdered. I think the bit with Mrs. Mack covering up the photo of the hippies, making the peace sign with the butt hanging out, is really funny because it's kind of like a prolonged gag, but and it doesn't keep on recurring like it does with the bottle. But yeah, I think because again, when I was doing research for this movie, I saw that they had taken another pass over the script to try and inject some humor and some liveliness into the film, because otherwise it's very dour the entire time. And while I understand the impulse, I do think that this is a victim of some of that early 70s idea of we're a little bit screwball when we're doing our humor, and I don't think that lands very well in a slasher film like this.
Yeah. Marilee, what about for you?
I love that you guys love her. And I get where you're coming from, and the fact that you love her has made me like her a little more. But honestly, her hiding bottles really reminded me of my mom trauma. So It's way less funny to me. I found a bottle of vodka in the toilet tank once. So it happens. It's not that funny to me. But I could see why you would think it would be.
Well, that's the thing, and I'm sorry, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but
no.
I totally see what you're talking about, though, in that it's not really funny, because that sort of thing does happen in real life. Because I've also had my family's had issues with addiction as well, and that is a very realistic thing that can happen, where you'll just find bottles of alcohol peppered around
Oh
and
my
hidden
God,
in
everywhere.
places. Yeah, and I think that this is, I'm thinking like too big brain here, but like the name Mrs. Mac also kind of implies like a little bit of like what is her heritage if it's got Mac in the name, which is again playing a little bit on like some stereotypes as well. So it's just like it's a little icky, and I really wish that they didn't do it. I think like I said before, like her covering up the photos that are inappropriate for Mr. Harrison, I think land a lot better.
Oh my God, that had me rolling on the floor. Like, I loved Mr. Harrison generally. Like, I think he's such like a sympathetic and like tragic figure.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I really felt for him in every scene that he was in. But like him in the room, and Mrs. Mac like trying desperately to cover that couple having sex. I was rolling. I thought that was hysterical.
Yes, and I kind of wish if they were going to do humor, do a little bit more like that, I suppose. Because Marilee, like, I'm so happy that you brought that up because I totally agree with you.
No, and I get it's supposed to be funny. It's not. It is mostly funny, and I do want to throw out there that she's also drinking straight sherry. Like, who are you? Like, what?
Well, and that's why I think it could work when you think about her being the den mother, the house mother for a group of sorority sisters, but who also are allowed to drink. So that does throw a little bit into the question of this. So then hiding it makes it feel much more pathological, and the number of places that it is hidden becomes pathologized as well. Mm-hmm. I think that if it had just been the book, and it had just been a nip before bed and I can't stand these girls, this would have sold. And then use her other comedic work the way that we see it with Mr. Harrison, which honestly, the times that they are together on screen are some of the best because she falls, she drops her purse later, and she curses, and then he comes up being like, "How dare you curse, young woman?" And she then is like, "Sorry, teehee." Like, that's all very good. And you don't need her to be drunk ever. So we don't need the pathology of this to be so turned up. And I think that that was a big stumble for me in Act 2. Mm-hmm. But her hating a Christmas present that she got, her hating this job that really is just a job for her complaining about the maintenance person, her being like, yeah, these women are sexually liberated, good for fucking them. All of that makes her a queen to me. It's just... some of this just, I think, got tweaked the wrong direction.
I think that's fair.
I think that's actually like a really good time to bring up some of our queer theory for this movie and apply it to the house itself. We do see that Mrs. Mac is clearly not the typical den mother for a sorority house. She is not only drinking as much as the girls do and allowing the girls to drink, but she's also allowing a lot of like nudity to be on display, a lot of free love. Memorabilia and posters and everything else is fully on display. She like doesn't like the present that the girls get her. It's all stuff that like, and she's older. She's an older woman too. So she's coming from an era where we would be under the impression that she would have the complete opposite of this sort of mindset. She would be much more similar to Mr. Harrison. But in this house that she is the den mother of, and is kind of like meant to be the protector, I think it's interesting that, she doesn't have a husband to speak of anymore. And she is the one who oversees all of the women who are allowed to be kind of happy and practice, free love and sexuality and everything like that. And I think that's really cool. And I think that's all the more reason for us to appreciate her. If we were to look into this as like, there's some sort of moral or divine punishment coming upon the sorority house and it's being embodied by Billy, I guess you could kind of see that being present as well. However, I think it does make the movie feel even bleaker if that were the case. Yeah.
The only thing I'll add for Mrs. Mac is that it's a blink and you miss it moment later when we are in her room seeing the telephone that is used by, we'll later learn, by Billy. But she was part of a vaudeville act, the McHenry Sisters, which we can then assume was either a former life. Well, I guess she's not a vaudeville star anymore, would have been pre coming to the sorority. And so I think that tells us a little bit more about who this character is, which is kind of nice in hindsight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, I definitely can see her on a vaudeville stage for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you don't graduate from college and be like, I want to be a dead mother. That's not exactly a career path. This is something that she's fallen into, and it's fine. And she's, okay at it, even though she hates it.
So across the school, Jess tells Peter that she's pregnant. Peter is immediately ecstatic. But Jess is planning on having an abortion. He tries to convince her, but she won't change her mind. Peter asks her to leave, but makes Jess promise that they'll talk more about it tonight. At the sorority house, Jess answers the phone, and it's the moaner again. But he takes a different tack this time, instead calling up for Billy and talking about a baby, so she doesn't immediately recognize him. Frustrated and upset, she hangs up on him. At the police station, Mr. Harrison, Phil, and Barb try to report Claire missing. Unfortunately, Sergeant Nash, the front desk officer, doesn't take them seriously. He lets Mr. Harrison file a report, but assures him that she's probably off with a boyfriend somewhere. Barb plays a trick on Nash and gives him the exchange number for the house as Fellatio.
F.E. Fellatio. Mm-hmm. There's a lot going on there. First of all, I will just say this movie looks great, start to finish. The 70s are so strong in it. The locations that we are choosing are so good. I love this recital hall. I love how it is decorated. I love how it is shot with Peter and Jess, because there is so much space between them, and you can only really do that in the sort of like recital hall, concert hall kind of way. Him at the piano, pretty much on stage, her at the doors. It is so good at telling a story about how far apart they are and how much distance there is. And I love the fact that there's just a like filthy ass ashtray next to him playing the piano. It is disgusting, and it is so 70s. Like, God, we just used to smoke everywhere. We just loved smoking.
Loved it.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. I think the vibes are excellent. I do love the blocking of the scene. Honestly, this whole scene between Jess and Peter is really fantastic, very chilling. And I think it kind of segues well into my argument about this movie, that the police and the men in the movie are just the absolute worst and piss me off so badly. The police, I think, are some of the most ineffectual and infuriating police that I have seen in a horror movie. They are just, I think you could very, very, very legitimately argue that this movie works as a major critique of the police establishment, because this mentality, although, they're not in a precinct that's like one room and then another room off to the side where the detectives work, are no longer built like this. But like, this is the same thing happens today, where like, oh, she's probably off with a boyfriend somewhere. It's not very serious. Yes, let me do the form. Yes, we take all of these sorts of things concerns very seriously, blah blah blah. But like, man, they just don't take these concerns to heart when we as the audience know that they absolutely should. And that's because this is a house full of women. Not just women, but also female college students who are going to have this, the men, the authority figures are going to have these preconceptions. They're probably all like having sex with their boyfriends. They're partying off somewhere, especially because it's right around the holidays. And it's dreadful, and it's something that is still the case today. And really, if the police had gotten their shit together, even just a tiny bit in this movie, things could have changed. But we see that does not happen throughout the entirety of the movie. And the men throughout this film, Peter, I think, being a major emblem of them, represent the dangers of a heteronormative society that says that women are less serious, should not be listened to, and are secondary in all concerns when the man is the one who calls the shots.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Agreed. That's a really fantastic take, and thank you for saying that. Mine was much less eloquent when I was just going to say, Sergeant Nash, when I catch you, Sergeant Nash, when I catch you. And Peter, you can catch these hands too. Like, I actually fucking hate that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do like that the police office sort of acts as our like counterbalance to the sorority house, that we have one space that's hyper masculine and destructive and one space that's allowed to be feminine. I think that's smart storytelling in how inept every time we go to the police office it is. In fact, the only good police work we seem to see is when the police finally come to the sorority house. And even then, 6 one, half a dozen the other. Like it's not great police work in this film.
Right.
No. But,
with the exception of one man, Marilee, with the exception of one man later, who we will get to.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, we go back to the house because Mrs. Mack is there, noting that this door still hasn't been fixed yet, and they are having a hard time opening it. While putting her coat away, she pulls out yet another hidden bottle of booze from the coat room, except this one is empty. Jess goes to see Chris, Claire's boyfriend, who is playing hockey, because this is Canada, and see if he has any idea where Claire could be, but he thought she had already gone home. When he learns that Mr. Harrison already reported her missing, but the cops didn't take them seriously, he is visibly furious. And at the police station, Lieutenant Fuller is taking a report about a missing 13-year-old girl when Chris arrives shouting at Sergeant Nash with Jess in tow. Apparently, Chris's brother works with the police, and Fuller immediately takes their matter much more seriously. Peter, who didn't do well on his big piano recital this afternoon, violently destroys the piano in the recital hall later that night. For me, the big thing here is that even this woman who's talking about her 13-year-old daughter being missing is also not believed by the police. It is not until hyper-masculine Chris arrives that anyone starts to take this seriously. And that just talks about the misogyny that's going on here.
No, yeah, and you're absolutely right. Like, when I watched that scene, it didn't seem like Fuller didn't believe her to me. It seemed like he was just, like, going through, like, the routine questionings, like, are you sure, like, this, that, and the other thing. But honestly, I think that might be me giving a kindness to the film, because Fuller does seem to be at least reasonably competent.
Yeah, he's better. It's a low gate, but he is better.
Yeah. So you know what? An ACAB anyway. So I think that's a really good, smart thing to pull out.
I agree. I think I really like the casting in this movie. The actor that they have playing Fuller, I'm so sorry I don't know his name, but he actually was, like, if you're a fan of like westerns from this time period or Bruce Lee movies, you might recognize him from Enter the Dragon. He's also known for having played a lot of sheriffs in western films. So I think getting this person to play an authority figure kind of segues well into kind of a little bit of what we talked about when we were talking about Frankenstein, and how Universal would reuse some actors to sort of nail the message, like, oh, this is going to be a scary movie, and you can trust them because they're saying it's a scary movie. When they have this actor,
John Saxon, by the way.
When they have John Saxon playing this character, it's a good way to get the audience to buy into the belief, like, I can trust this guy. I know that this guy is going to be a good person, although as we see, he's like just barely above competent for what this movie requires. So
yeah, like, it worked on me. Like, I knew that actor, and it was like, yeah, he's doing his best, I guess. So, that could just show you that it works. Casting works.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think he does a really good job. I even think the incompetent people do a good job of being incompetent. Like, I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think
everybody acts really well in this film.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Outside of the two like neighborhood watch guys who come later, I think perfect casting across the board on this one.
Keir Dullea is who plays Peter as well. Who, if you are a Kubrick fan, that's Dave. That's Dave Bowman from 2001: Space Odyssey.
Whoa!
Yes.
What? My namesake, Dave? Can't let you do that, Dave. Wow. Oh, I did not clock that.
It's the hair.
Dave is great. Yeah, his there's too much hair. Everyone needs a haircut. That's what I will say. Perfect casting after we go to the barber.
That's the 70s.
Everyone.
That's the 70s for you.
Everyone needs a haircut.
But I think that's actually kind of like really good too, because we sort of trust Dave Bowman from 2001: A Space Odyssey because he's essentially our protagonist in that movie. He is going up against Hal. So to see him be really unhinged and loose and really creepy is really great. And I think it was such an excellent choice to have Peter fail at his piano recital and then show us him destroying the piano. I think is excellent, like scripting. And again, goes a long way to showing us Peter's character without having to dive deep into like, why is Peter like this? And I think it's excellent storytelling.
He is unhinged. You said it. Couldn't think of a better word myself. Like truly and honestly, this guy has lost it. Because he's tired of being a musician. That's like sort of happening in the background. He's devastated about this whole thing with Jess that's happening because he sees the baby as their like future. And it's all coming apart for him and he has lost control of this and he fucked up on his recital and these 3 grumpy old men aren't going to let him play the piano the way that he wants to or whatever his stakes are. And he's like lost it. And watching him take the bottom of this microphone stand to a grand piano was very evocative.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, Peter, every scene with him makes me like him less, and he did not make a good first impression.
Not at all.
No. Try again, Peter.
As I call him. In the next scene, Mr. Harrison eats dinner with the girls at the sorority house, and Mrs. Mack tries to comfort him that Claire will probably turn up soon. Barb is pretty drunk and rambling about turtles having sex before shouting about how everyone is blaming her for driving Claire away and they should just say it instead of just implying it. She's sent upstairs to bed by Phil. Jess and Chris arrive to tell everyone about their experiences at the police station, but the scene shifts to a point of view shot of the moaner watching them from outside. Before they all go out, Mrs. Mack tells Phil she probably won't be there when they arrive back as she's going to her sister's. The police have organized a search party to look for the little girl reported missing and are searching a park near the sorority house. Mrs. Mack's taxi arrives and she's about to leave when she hears Claude again. She's lured up to the attic and then killed with a hook by the moaner. He watches the taxi leave without her before going on a rampage and throwing stuff around the attic.
Wow. Just to start at the beginning of this sequence, Barb giving some fantastic drunk acting here, truly and honestly. And for me, what sells the sex turtles thing, that I don't love that. I only love that we get to see that. And then we see her jump to this moment of like drunken lucidity, which is so well realized for anyone who's been around someone who's intoxicated, but then their emotions kind of get to them. And to watch that drunken lucidity come out, it was amazing to see on film. I truly bought it hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah,
Hook.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh, wow, David.
I said hook.
Insensitive.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Margot Kidder, who is playing Barb, who we might all recognize from the original Superman movie, David is giving me a big shrug, but he's just not as much of a Superman fan as I am. I see how
That's
is.
true. That is true.
She really is giving a really fantastic performance here. But of course, also rest in peace to our girl Mrs. Mack.
Yeah.
What a brutal way to go.
For sure. Before we move on to Mrs. Mack, I just want to like real quick go back to Barb, because while I do believe Mrs. Mack is the kind of person who absolutely would make some really cutting remarks, I do think it's interesting that we, as the audience, never see anyone making any kind of blame or insinuation or anything like that towards her, which I think is really interesting, because, like, guilt is a hell of a thing. Like, I think it's obvious, like, we can imply that, like, she's been sitting there drinking all day and, like, really stewing on this thing that happened the night before, and, like, she feels guilty and is like projecting that outwards, and I think that that's really interesting.
That's such a great call out, Marilee. You're so smart.
See, it's that guilt is, it's like core to her character, and that's it makes her very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It makes her very interesting to watch.
That Barb is interesting. Like, we didn't really talk about it because it was such a brief thing. Like, in the very top of the movie, we hear, like, she gets a phone call from her mom who is uninviting her to Christmas because she found a guy that she's gonna go, like, spend time with instead. And, like, so she's like, well, I guess I'll go skiing with some friends. And then, like, when she goes in to talk with everybody else, she's like, hey, who wants to go skiing? And kind of, like, leaves that disappointment behind. And then we see her, like, being all this vivacious person who's, like, really trying to be the light of the party. But I do think that there is an inner life to her that we never really see, like, especially considering the fact that she has, like, unicorns decorating her sorority bedroom. I think that there's a lot to her that kind of gets reduced by the very little we see of her on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that's so smart of the way that the film is written and acted. Like, there's a lot of a performance there, you know?
Yeah.
I love that. That's so good.
And I don't know if we want to talk about now or when Barb finally meets her maker, but I do think the glass figurines do give a little Laura Winfield to all of this. Like, I think it's impossible for me to see glass figurines and not think about the most famous glass figurine, Glass Menagerie, and make some, like, connections between, like, what is mental state, what does it mean to be loved and seek love. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's a smart pull. I hadn't considered that at all.
I hadn't either.
Okay, so let's talk about Mrs. Mack.
Let's talk about her. First of all, I want to say I felt like there were 2 times when Mrs. Mack could have made it out of this as the final girl. The first time we're watching her climb up the ladder and the taxi honks again. And I was like, just go to your taxi. Go to your taxi. And she doesn't. She keeps climbing the ladder. And then the second time she's almost killed, but she snags her pants or her pantyhose on the ladder. And I was like, great. Take it as a sign to leave. And she does not. And she dies.
To be fair, she thought the cat was up there.
Yeah.
I would also go up there for that cat.
Same.
The cat looked very snuggly.
He's beautiful. I wonder, like, what is their plan with the cat? Like, was everybody planning, like, was there one person planning on staying to feed him?
Right.
Or, they were just gonna leave the cat alone for potentially up to a month? Like, what's your plan here, guys?
Yeah. But I will say the hook kill is wonderful. I was genuinely surprised and very horrified by how this was shot and executed.
Oh, no.
Another one, David.
And seeing her hung up was very, very, very I mean, seeing a person suffocated throughout the movie and on the cover of the film was scary imagery. But now to add this, like, hanging matron is also, like, it's the attic is scary. The attic is very scary.
Mm-hmm. I think it's kind of interesting too that this is a surprisingly, like, bloodless movie. We do not see a lot of, like, gore or viscera or anything.
That's true.
Another film, especially because this is the 70s and we're getting into a lot more of, like, let's show blood, let's show gore because we've lived through Vietnam. I think it's kind of cool, or at least just an interesting choice that they made more like the physical expression on the victims' faces be what is so horrifying.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't consider that, but wow, you do get to see everyone's face eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of painted blood on a couple of folks later, but I don't think I see any on Mrs. Mack here.
Right.
I
Not
think I just see
here.
her
Like, there is
hanging.
later in the film,
Okay.
like the last shot of, like, the inside of the attic. You can see that there's some blood on Mrs. Mack's, like, temple and, like,
Okay.
some on her throat. But
But it's definitely not to, like, an absurd degree. Like, it's definitely like that. David, like, calling
it's
it
demure.
like painted
It's
blood.
very cutesy.
Yes, very demure. David calling it, like, painted blood is, like, exactly, like, a very good descriptor. Yeah. So if you have not seen this film, the blood in this movie is very clearly not, real human blood. It's that sort of late 60s, 70s special effects blood, which is just more or less red paint. But I think it's very excellently done. Really, really, really good, I hate to say it, execution all around.
Here's the deal. For me, scariest part of the movie was this rampage that he goes on after killing Mrs. Mack.
Yes.
Because it's terrifying to think about someone who's in the mental state that they could kill somebody, and then to watch that be a traumatic incident for them to then go through. We don't know who Billy is. We don't know even that the moaner is Billy yet, or will be called Billy, I suppose, later. But this is the using POV for the rampage and smashing things in the attic was honestly terrifying to me.
I agree. I think it also, like, we're talking a lot about like toxic heteronormativity in this movie and how the men in this movie are really, pretty either ineffectual or antagonistic. I think that really added to the horror of this, because we've established that these men are violent and capable of violence, and watching someone be violent and then act violently in a way that, unfortunately, many of us, me included, have like experienced male aggression, like acting out like this. It's very unnerving and anxiety inducing, and it's presented very realistically in terms of just like a complete lack of emotional control.
Yeah. At the park, as part of the search party, Jess leaves early to go talk to Peter just before the dogs find a body. The little girl that everyone was looking for was murdered. The phone is ringing when Jess walks through the door, and the moaner begs Jess to please stop him before screaming down the line at her. She calls the police to report the constant calls as Peter creeps down the stairs behind her, scaring her. Unfortunately, Jess gets Sergeant Nash at the station, and he is as unhelpful as ever. Luckily, Lieutenant Fuller overhears about the lewd caller at the same address as the missing girl and decides to look into it himself. He also looks over the initial missing person report and discovers Barb's fellatio joke that they played on Nash earlier. At the sorority house, Peter tells Jess that he is quitting music and decides he and Jess will get married, but she doesn't want to give up on her dreams because his plans have changed, and she refuses. He becomes violent when she refuses him, breaking an ornament off the tree and saying that if she has an abortion, she'll regret it. Peter leaves in a huff as Phil arrives back from the police station with Lieutenant Fuller and Bill Graham, a phone technician, to help trace the phone calls. He's linked their phone to one at the station, and he's all set up at the house. When the moaner calls again, they just have to keep him on the line as long as possible so that Graham can trace the call. Fuller leaves with someone in the car outside, and Phil goes up to bed, leaving Jess alone waiting.
So Graham is the hero of this movie. Like, to
True
me,
story.
you gotta fight me on this one. Especially because he wanted to check out Mrs. Mack's line, but Fuller was the one who told him not to bother because none of the calls were coming from there. So, like, if he had put a trace on that line too, it would have been much easier to see that they were, like, connected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Graham is fantastic. I love him. We get a great Graham scene, I think, in the next little story beat that I just think Graham is great.
Graham's great.
I don't know why it's so satisfying to see competent people be competent at their job.
Oh, it's the greatest. It's my favorite.
Yeah. In a movie like this, especially, like, it's so, like, it's
when
just
no
really
one
satisfying.
Else is doing their jobs.
Yeah, no one else is doing their fucking job, especially the other men. I don't know why. And, like, the clicking sounds that you hear later at the phone company, it's really good. But if y'all don't mind, I'd like to get into, like, a little bit of the history, just, like, really quick.
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
So I think it's important to keep in mind because abortion is a major issue in this movie, or it's a major theme in this movie. Roe versus Wade was passed only a year before this movie came out. So I think Jess is a really fantastic representation of a woman in this post-Roe v. Wade era owning her own body, making her own choices in the face of a man who's trying to exert ownership over her. I think it was such a wonderful speech that she gives where she's talking about, like, I have my own dreams. I have my own career. I want to do this. I want to do that. I can't stop it just because your life has changed. And it's so wonderful to see that be written out. And it's so wonderful to see it presented in a way that is not, like, coded as, like, Jess is, like, an evil feminist, like she burned her bra and listens to Gloria Steinem. Like, it's nothing like that. It's just that Jess is like, I am a human. I have goals. I have things I want to accomplish. I don't want to marry you just because your life is falling apart right now, Peter. And I think that is the sort of argument that could not have been made and carried through in that pre-Roe v. Wade era, or at least it might not have been sold quite as well or been appreciated as much. And so I think that this is really great, and I love Jess. I think, you know, Marilee, you just said that Graham is the hero of this movie. I think Jess is also very much a heroine in this movie too.
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah,
like and she's the protagonist and all of that. I'm just saying, like, you talk a lot rightly about how men are incompetent and bad, and like
it's nice we have one.
Yeah, no, Chris, Claire's boyfriend, is also like unambiguously a good guy who, like, at every step of the, like, every time we see him, he is actively trying to help the situation. He's trying to get like, eyes on what's going on with Claire. He's trying to, like, he is unambiguously a good guy. He's really good to both Jess and Phil. Like, you see him, like, at the search, he stays with her and makes sure that she's all right and all of that stuff. But
yeah, he's a good ally.
Yeah, he's lifting up women's voices and using his authority to do so.
Mm-hmm.
But no, like, Jess is the star.
Right.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing about the abortion conversation also, Tyler, is that Canada is going through a similar journey that the United States went through on the path to Roe v. Wade, but they are a few years behind, if you can believe. So when this film came out, it was really province by province still, and there would be panels of medical experts who had to evaluate whether or not, of men, you would have to assume, of men who would have to evaluate whether or not a woman would be able to get an abortion.
That's interesting.
Mostly it was done for safety. It was done to make sure everything would be okay, especially where this film would have been set. So it's just very interesting to think about the 70s of it all, with the legislative and the court decisions that would have just happened in the United States and would be coming in Canada. And now where we are today with a woman having autonomy over her body being such a politically driven issue that was already sort of settled, that has now come back and has left sort of a sense of impermanence to any justice that we are able to achieve in helping to right some of these imbalances that have been created through our society.
Yeah.
I think that's wonderfully put. I love y'all. Y'all are so smart and wonderful. I love doing this podcast with you.
So we've talked about people that we like. Let's talk about someone who's a complete asshole, and that's Peter. Wow. Peter comes down these stairs like such a creeper. We use his POV, which we've only done for the moaner so far. And it is terrifying. I really thought Jess was about to get it.
Mm-hmm.
I did not like this. It was very scary. And then he showed up and I was not settled. I was like, you are a bad guy.
He is a bad guy. He's not the bad guy, but he is a bad guy. Yeah. And I do not like him.
I do not like him. I do not like him on a bus. I do not like him with some plus
with a fuss
signs.
I don't know.
Yeah. I had nowhere to go.
I think it's interesting though, because like it does display like the potential for violence in all men in this movie.
Yeah.
That like, you know, the moaner threatens Barb. Peter is a fucking psycho. He's we exactly, David, like he's kind of blocked here as a creep, and then our anxiety is not at all dismissed when we see it's him. Like,
no.
Like it's very chilling.
Yeah, why are you walking down the stairs slowly?
Yeah.
Only evil does that.
No, and like he's like, hey, I took a nap in your rooms. Like, what are you doing in her bedroom? She didn't let you in, guy. You're kind of like broken up right now, it seems like. What are you doing in her room?
Don't invade this, the only set of femininity. You go to the police station if you want to have a nap.
Yep.
That's where you go. Speaking of the police station, Nash deserves all the hate that we have to offer for him in the world. Mm-hmm. But I will say this whole him being teased by the detectives for falling for the fellatio joke did have a sting for me of this sort of sexuality when it's done by heterosexuals is this sort of in joke, and if you don't get it, you're less of a man. It reeked of that scene from I Saw the TV Glow that we talked about last episode, where the boss was like laughing at Justice Smith. Like I felt for Nash in this moment because he was being teased for being less of a man, and that made me not love Fuller and other detective who did have a name, but I forgot it.
Yes.
I think it was Buchanan, but I truly
Buchanan.
only know
It
that
was.
because I've seen the movie 3 times in 2 weeks.
It was Buchanan. Well done, Marilee.
Well done.
Thank you. No, you're 100% right. I didn't really consider it under that lens, but you're correct. That was a little shitty.
It's shitty.
And I think that that's a really great pull.
I think you could probably open up an argument towards like the knowledge or lack thereof of sexuality can make or break a person's survival in this film. Barb
That's
is
a
the
good
one
point.
who makes that joke, and she belongs to this household of sexually liberated people. She knows what fellatio is, and so does everyone else. And then you have the other men in the police department. They know what fellatio is, but Nash doesn't know what it is. And so by not knowing, what, the ins and outs of sexuality, no kind of pun intended there, it does kind of put things at risk. And I think you could probably have like an interesting conversation about that.
Okay, last point before I move on. I do want to say that this is where Peter says that she's treating the abortion like having a wart removed. And it is him who dehumanizes this child, not her. And I think that's important, both for, we're going to come back to this term, having a wart removed, and you know what? You're not actually a stand-up guy. You don't care about this baby. You just want to control this woman. Fuck you.
You're 100% right. And like, that's a really great poll that I hadn't considered.
Same.
One last thing that I wanted to say before we move on is that the cinematography in this movie is really incredible. And like,
So
I
good.
keep coming back to it, but like there was, I don't remember what exactly it was. I think it was like coming down the stairs when Peter and like that whole little fake out really is this like the whole film is shot so well. I really am consistently impressed by it.
Yeah. This is a great looking film.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So the moaner creeps down from the attic and watches Barb sleep. And after a brief fake out, he brutally kills her with a crystal unicorn decoration while Jess is listening to some carolers outside. The phone rings. Unfortunately, Jess isn't able to keep him on the line long enough, but he does use that phrase that Peter used while talking in the house this afternoon, the wart removed one. Jess wakes up Phil to talk about what's going on, and they express concerns that maybe Peter is the one who's been making these calls. The phone rings, and it's Peter himself. He's begging her not to have that abortion. Fuller tries to trace the call, but it wasn't long enough. He calls the house after and asks Jess about Peter, deeply suspicious of him. But it can't be Peter. He was in the house when that first call came.
Love all of this. Let's talk about the murder first, I guess, because I didn't love Barb being murdered, because that was really sad.
Yeah.
And the caroling children, great film technique to interplay these terrifying looking children of the corn singing a Christmas melody while a glass unicorn is plunged into a woman. Very, 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 very scary. Mm-hmm. This was very scary.
Yeah, no, I love the fake out with Barb, like with the original asthma thing, like, and everything. Like, you think that she's gonna be okay, but then immediately she still dies.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the crystal unicorn being used as a murder, thing was so twisted. I thought that was really fun.
Marilee, I will say this in your corner about this being a Christmas movie. I do think this is the most Christmassy part of the movie.
Because of the caroling?
Because of the carolers.
Because of the carolers. But it's not just that it's carolers happening, but it's also carolers are being used to push like the plot forward. And so I think for me, that's part of what makes a Christmas movie is that Christmas has to be made part of the plot momentum.
I love that Tyler's paint by numbers on this is like, you must have a murder happen while carolers distract another character. Like, this is on my bucket list of Christmas horror films.
Yes. Item number 12-24 on my list of what makes a Christmas movie a Christmas movie. We must have carolers used throughout. No, but like
12/24. You mean Christmas Eve? Dun dun dun.
But yes, I do think genuinely very scary. I honestly just like, I think this is the point in the movie where like everything ramps up, and now we are like on like a freight train to the ending, and it's very well done. excellent.
Yeah,
excellent
this is Act.
stuff.
We're in Act 3.
Yeah.
Like I'm so happy to be here. Act 2 had a couple of clunkier moments. Act 3 is party all the time. We're murdering folks. It's really scary. It's gory. It's a little more gory too because we actually get some blood here with Barb, and we see it on the crystals, and she also knocks over the crystals in some really good camera work on that.
Yeah, for sure.
I also think that the tracing of this call is like the most action we get in the film. Watching our boy Graham, hero of all, run through this connection facility, which are now all these disused buildings across the United States, to trace the call because he's looking at where the machines are connecting the lines. It's great. The camera tracking him in between these giant silos of wires is so evocative, so powerful. Oh, I loved these Graham scenes in the call center,
especially because that you very could have easily like put a music to Graham rushing between the different rows of connections. Yeah. But instead, it's just all the sound of the telephones ringing and the connections being made and the like electricity crackling. I love that you could see like the blue electricity crackling next to Graham as he like talks to his operator, and uses that weird sort of dialer to make the connections. All of like that 70s tech. It's so visually appealing. I just saw a post. It was either Twitter or Blue Sky. I don't know. We're in a weird stage of our social media use. But someone had said that like one of the reasons why cell phones kind of suck is that they're ugly to see on screen. And I would agree. Like something about just like having like a big clunky phone receiver, even something that's like especially like kind of specialized where the rotary part of it is part of the phone. It's so cool. It's just very visually appealing in a way that holding a black rectangle to your phone is not, or to your face is not.
You're 100% right. And like if you pay attention to the cinematography in this movie, like a lot of the time when they move like into the den or rooms that have a phone, the camera moves to the phone even if it's not going to ring in the scene.
No way.
It's like always like having you, the audience, be aware there is a phone and it could ring in that scene.
The phone is like the focal point in so much of Act 3, Tyler. I'm a little surprised that this was new to you, but I almost want you to watch this again because the phone tracking is so good because it's like it's like Sydney hasn't seen Ghostface, but you, the audience, can see Ghostface, so the camera zooms in, and that's how we're treating the phone. And it's so smart because the phone is the source of all this conflict and scariness outside of all the murders, the murders that happen before the phone calls.
No. I'm definitely like going through the memory banks now, and I'm just like, oh yeah, that did happen. Yeah. I've just been on so many different
that's fair
pills. My brain is just like melted as goo by this point.
But like on a page being like zoom in on the phone doesn't seem scary, doesn't seem terrifying, because except for maybe like if you have traumatic memories of cords getting tangled up, but like these like avocado ugly ass 70s phones are the point of focus so often that it starts to become shorthand for, is it going to ring? And I love the sequence of Jess waiting for the phone to ring because the only thing moving in the scene is this fire in the fireplace. Otherwise, it could be a still picture for all we know as the audience. And that is brilliant for a director to do because stillness in film causes us to be tense. Mm-hmm. We expect there to be movement.
Yeah, absolutely. And like speaking of the phone being a character, like when Phil and Jess are like reassuring themselves that it couldn't be Peter, the phone call happened while he was upstairs.
Yeah.
Like the Peter is set up as such like an excellent red herring because that doesn't disqualify him at all. Like at the end of the film that we know that Peter wasn't the moaner, but he could have been.
Yeah, we do almost kind of yo-yo it, Marilee, and I love that because it's like, oh, it's Peter, I know it. And then you're like, oh, it couldn't be Peter because he was there in the house that one time. But then we're like, oh, the calls were coming from inside the house, so it is Peter. And then Peter's dead, but the moaner's still alive. Like, it does a really good job of yanking you up and down, and I love when horror does this because I should be played with as an audience member.
Agree. Totally in agreement with you on that.
I should be toyed with like Claude has got a hold of me and is just patting me back and forth with its cute little fuzzy hands.
Aww. That would be so cute.
Yeah, what a little sweetums.
Well, two men come to check on the sorority house as part of the search party, scaring Phil. The girls are glad to be rid of the men, and so am I. And Jess remarks that the back door is the only one locked. Upstairs, Phil sees Barb's door closing and goes to check on her before the door slams ominously behind her. Ugh. Jess is locking up downstairs when the phone rings again. Fuller, who was out investigating Peter and found the smashed piano, rushes to the radio to listen in while Graham finally traces the call. It's coming from inside the house on Mrs. Mack's second line.
Ooh, I love this. I also love that as the police officer is ushering Fuller back to the police car, we get the entire audio, like we're listening to it, like it's playing out of the radio. I don't care if it's diegetic or non-diegetic. It's so effective because we get these cuts to Jess being horrified about what's being said. We get more understanding of what the moaner is going through. There's clearly some sort of trauma that they are working through. It's great. We are really going towards the finale here. And I wish Phil's death had a little bit more time to it, but I'm also happy that we are on like the fast track towards the end. And we're doing that so well. So then I think the sacrifice is that we don't get to see Phil's death the way that we saw Barb's death.
Yeah. I think it's one of the things that I really liked about this scene is the way that technology was so limiting in the 70s. Like today it would be no problem, but like at the time, like Fuller has to run like out of like the recital room, out of the building, all the way down through this long area to get to the car to where like presumably Sergeant Nash has been like holding up the phone to the radio and like hear it that way. And then like he can't be the one to call Jess later because there's no phone, and right. I don't know why he doesn't immediately start driving, but he has to like stay there and talk to Nash on the radio, and he has to be the one to call her. I just think that's like that sequence wouldn't happen like that if it was filmed today, and I think that we would lose that delicious tension.
Something about this,
so good.
Something about films that are set in the 70s or filmed in the 70s, they just have such interesting like plot dynamics like that, because we have so many more options for what you can accomplish versus what you could do 10 years ago in terms of technology. But in comparison to what we have now, there's so much still like room for plot intricacies and tension, not even like a horror film. But if you were to just set this as maybe like just a regular old holiday film in the 70s and no murders involved, there's still a lot of like issues that can crop up because of issues with communication that are no longer present today, but in the 70s are just kind of par for the course and something that you have to overcome. So I don't know, it's just something like there's more meat to make things to create conflict than something today, because it could like we've had this joke many times over the years, and Scream has done many winks and nods to it, but it's difficult to do kind of like the same sort of phone horror today that you could do back then. And
this is completely basically unrelated, but do you want to know my favorite instance of like that technology thing in movies?
Tell me.
It's in The Birdcage.
Ooh.
Yeah, so like a whole huge part of the climax of the film wouldn't happen today, because like the whole thing is that like the mom is like on the way to play the mom, but like she's caught up in traffic and she's on a car phone, so she can't receive phone calls, but she can call out, and that simply wouldn't happen these days. Like and like when I first watched the movie, I didn't know that. I had to like read it on the Wikipedia page, because like I remember when car phones existed, but my family wasn't like, we didn't have a car phone, we weren't rich enough for that. So like the idea that you could call out on a car phone to be like, hey, I'm in traffic, stall as long as you can, but then they can't call her to let her know that like she's actually not needed, the mom is in drag, so like it's a whole thing, and like she comes in and ruins the surprise because of that. She's like, hey, I'm the mom, I'm late in traffic. It simply couldn't happen today, and I love when like that micro moment where that was possible was only when the Birdcage was filmed.
Oh my god! Now I want to watch The Birdcage again.
You should. It's fantastic.
So
bird
good.
cage is fantastic.
Yeah, you know who does a really great conversation of the birdcage? The podcast Are You My Mother? It's really phenomenal. Yeah.
And hearkening back to folks that we gave a shout out to, I was joined by Sean and Clayton, who are the ones who covered Black Christmas, which put it on my mind. So all full circle here with the Men Who Like Movies podcast crew.
Fear Coded is kind of like the linchpin of all sorts of like queer podcasting. We've just like
we're everywhere.
We're like Fear Coded has become the 6 degrees of podcasting. Like,
listen,
I love it. Let's just keep on doing that.
Well, because of all this conflict, we are here at the climax of the film. Fuller tries to radio the officer outside of the sorority house, but he is already dead. He's got a gnarly little cut on his neck. So Fuller reluctantly trusts Nash to call Jess to put down the phone and walk outside without telling her that the caller is inside the house. Nash, of course, bungles it and tells her when she questions what's going on. Jess calls out repeatedly to Phil and Barb, but after getting no response, she heads upstairs and finds them dead. She's chased to the basement by the moaner, who tries repeatedly to break down the basement door before everything goes quiet. And then Peter is stalking around outside the basement window. He breaks into the basement trying to talk to Jess, and she hides, terrified for her life. He finds her and stalks towards her, and the scene cuts to a police car pulling up to the sorority house, and they hear screaming from inside the house. The police break in and find Jess passed out with a dead Peter in front of her. They think it's all over. A doctor has seen to Jess and gave her something to help her sleep. He doesn't think she'll be able to answer questions until tomorrow afternoon, and they all file out of the house, leaving Jess alone with an officer on the front porch. Upstairs in the attic, the moaner giggles with Claire and Mrs. Mack's undiscovered bodies. As the movie ends and the camera pulls away from the house, you can hear the phone ringing inside throughout the end credits.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's great. This is so great.
Yeah.
I loved this whole sequence.
The way that we have that zoom out from Claire's face in the window, and it's like if someone had just been effective at their fucking job, they would have seen Claire's fucking face in the window and realized, oh shit, the killer's in the attic. But no, all the men suck at their jobs except for Graham.
Including the police officer on the front porch who hears the phone ringing inside, has a moment where, like, if you pay attention to him as the camera's moving out, you can see that he, like, starts to go inside, thinks better of it, and then stays outside.
Mm-hmm.
Motherfucker.
Yeah.
I watched him too, merrily. I was like, what, is this motherfucker going to go in? Like, what's he doing? And just, that's where I was like, man, this phone never stops ringing as we, like...
Well, it's the 70s. They don't have, like, a cutoff.
Well, it's also because, like, they just said something as we're, like, leaving the house about, like, oh, the killer called every time that he killed someone. And so when the phone starts ringing during that zoom out, it's just kind of, like, a confirmation, like, oh, Jess is toast.
That's what I thought, which is why I was like, oh, Jess isn't a final girl, because I think she's dead. Mm-hmm. I think she's been killed.
I don't know. Like, maybe it could be that she's dead. It could not be. Like, he did call, like, before, and he did call, like, just randomly sometimes.
It's also, like, the cops are clearly not capable of doing their job, so who the fuck even knows? I'm probably in the camp that Jess is dead. Like, the moaner is still in the house, and there's no one there to stop him. But I do like the ambiguity of it all because it adds to that urban legend vibe. Like, if this is an urban legend come to life, it's like, it really plays into that primal horror that comes from the fear that someone is in your house and you don't know. And like, especially after thinking that you got them out and they're still there.
We've all had this vibe, right? You're laying down to go to bed, you've turned off all the lights, and you think, oh no, I left the front door open, and your reaction is, I can't get out of bed to check it because there's already a murderer here waiting to get me, and if I get out of bed, they'll have me, right?
Yep.
Marilee is stronger than both of us, Tyler, because Marilee is like, I don't have that.
No, it's not that. It's just that I have a lot of front door anxiety. It's more of like where when I'm leaving, I'm like, did I lock the door? Am I going to come home and like my house and cats are gone because like somebody's coming and like stolen all my shit. So when I'm laying in bed and can't move because something's gonna get me, I was always afraid that a ghost was in the corner, and I couldn't let the ghost know that I was awake, because if the ghost knew that I was awake, it would kill me.
That's true. That's true. We need to watch that Paranormal Activity, because that's one of the things ghosts hate. They hate being recorded, and they hate when you're awake.
Yeah. So like if you're asleep, it's fine. The monster's not going to get you. So yes. it's more of like, if I have no problem getting up and checking the door if I feel weird about it. But if a ghost was there, it would kill me. That's the thing.
You know, it's actually kind of crazy now that we talk about this. I just remember my family actually did experience something like, not they didn't experience this movie, but they did have kind of like a semi-home invasion, like quick aversion sort of thing. So when my mom was younger and she lived in the countryside, their house was like very typical Midwestern house in the 70s, just like one floor, there's like the basement and everything. But she woke up one night and someone was trying to get into the kitchen. And then after my family, my mom's family moved down to Florida, and my mom lived in this house, which was another 1-bedroom house, because that's what a lot of houses in Florida are like, but no basement.
Yeah.
Her blinds were open, and she woke up and saw someone peering through the window.
No. Tyler, no.
No,
Tyler,
I'm so sorry.
No.
That's a Midwest thing. Because in Florida, it's a Midwest thing that your parents have like brought down there. Mm-hmm. Because to me, like here and in Texas as well, you fucking close those motherfucking blinds as soon as it gets dark, so no one can see inside your house.
Well, that's what my family did for my entire life growing up, and then I eventually found out why. And now I have that same anxiety too, my whole life. And now I'm suddenly reminded of that. Especially because, we didn't touch on this, but, like, actually, Mary Lee, like, I definitely want to hear your take on this. Like, we do actually get Jess's point of view of the moaner, and she has a similar experience.
Yeah, so a couple things. I'm going to say a lot of shit right now. You're just going to have to come with me on this journey.
I'm ready. Like, I bought the ticket. Right, my seat is a window seat. Let's go.
All right, so like... From Jess going upstairs, first and foremost, she like shoves in the door to get into Barb's room, and like you see the moaner like after like she looks and she sees Phil and Barb there dead on the bed, like he was holding the door shut, and so like he's like trapped behind the door, and you just see his eye through the door crack. Horrifying. Like his pupil is fucking red. It's awful. Like the whole thing. And then I didn't put this in the notes, but like as she's running downstairs, she tries to like go out to the front door, can't open it because it's not been fixed. Door has troubles open sometimes. The moaner fucking grabs and pulls her hair.
Oh, the hair pull. Oh, it's so bad, Marilee.
It's awful. So it's so awful. It's awful. It's awful. It's awful. And like she gets down to the basement, she thinks that she's safe, and then motherfucking Peter comes around. He like breaks in. Of course she's scared for her life, and I think that she should be. Yeah. Because like even though we know he's not the moaner, which if you were watching the movie with no prior explanation, I think that you would think he's the moaner, and for one specific reason, he doesn't have a fucking coat.
Yes.
He is like we're meant to believe, because we see him like lingering around outside several times, and we do see him wearing a coat, but in this moment he does not have his coat on, so he was just somewhere warm, right? He was in the fucking... Anyway, that's not the point. The point is that I think Peter was genuinely going to kill her. Like his threat earlier about like if you get this abortion you'll regret it, his like increase in violence throughout the film. I think that if he was outside, like he must have seen the moaner kill the cop. Because, like, he was...
like, we saw... none of my business. Mm-hmm. Gotta go harass my girlfriend.
Yeah. I genuinely think he was gonna kill her. Like, I think he was coming with intent. And I get it, girlfriend.
Ugh. No. She should have bludgeoned him to death with a fire poker.
Yeah, for sure.
Did she?
Okay, say more.
I just wonder, the police officers seem to think that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And because they thought that's what happened, I thought, well, these motherfuckers are batting zero. So it is the complete opposite of what they think.
Mm-hmm.
I wondered if the moaner came down and took care of him and she had just passed out from fear or vapors or whatever. I do think it was a little ambivalent as to who actually got Peter. I would love for it to be Jess because he deserves to die at her hand,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not 100% sure it was.
Interesting.
Well, we saw if he did go outside, because we did hear definitively like the front door slam. So it could have been, and he would have come through the window. So it's entirely possible. But like, I think that there was, I don't know. That's a really great poll.
Mm-hmm.
The one other thing that I wanted to say was that the fact that the cops missed the attic, like, did they just like not fucking search the house? What the fuck?
I like thinking that there's an officer who's like, hey, there's a ladder to the attic, and someone being like, ugh, what a pain in the ass to climb up that. We'll get it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just
Steven, do
fucking
you know
assholes.
how cold an attic is in mid-December?
Yeah.
I'm not
no,
going
and then,
up there. We'll wait for forensics.
the reason why everybody leaves the house and everything, like, why is the officer stationed outside in fucking December during the snow? Why is she left alone in the house? These guys are so bad at their job.
I mean,
I will say you have to have the subtitle. You have to have the subtitles on to get it. But Mr. Harrison, was it?
Yes, he faints. They take him to the hospital.
Yeah.
And you also get this with the subtitles is that Nash is put in charge of the house. He just fucking Nash. I hate that
Can't
guy.
win. Cannot
that guy.
win.
No.
also, I think, actually, now that it occurs to me that, like, Mr. Harrison passed out, so they're like, we gotta take him to the hospital. But Jess, who just
Just
survived,
sleep in bed.
Yeah.
let her sleep in the crime scene. It's fine.
Yeah. Absolute fucking monsters. Anyway, I just talked so much. Please say words.
No, Marilee,
I
that was
love the end of
wonderful.
this.
I loved everything that you just said. That was fantastic.
That was great. I like the idea of Jess killing the moaner. I love the idea of Peter being dead, so I don't really care
Right.
who it is who got him. This whole end sequence though is so scary when he is approaching her in the basement, when Peter is approaching Jess in the basement, and we cut to the cop cars. I literally had no idea what was happening, and when she opened her eyes briefly there in the basement, I was like, thank God, my girl Jess is alive for now.
Yeah. Absolutely agreed.
The other thing that I love, and it happens here at the end before a like final scare with the moaner, and it happened earlier when we were doing the search party, but I love the director and the script using this police procedural as a way to like lower your tension, which then makes the scare even higher when it happens, because they're doing all this stuff about like where the bodies need to go because the hospital doesn't have the space because we're just a tiny little town with a music conservatory and a university that all these women go to, and they can't possibly handle 4 dead bodies. Like I love all that minutia sort of settles you before it's like he I am up here and I murdered a bunch of people, and that's really scary.
It's a little bit like the ending to Psycho, honestly.
Yeah.
When they're having the breakdown of, like, you know, in Psycho, it's like, we're going to listen to the Freudian over here. But in this, it's
Dr.
just
Exposition.
Dr. Exposition. But here, it's more of just, like, exposition for, you know, the sake of exposition. But at the same time, like, David, like, I think that's such a great pull that, like, it's meant to kind of soothe you, but it's also, I'm watching it and I'm just thinking, like, why are we still going?
Right.
Why is the movie not over? Like, why are we not rolling credits right now? And then we get the Norma and Bates, you know, monologue to the camera version in this, which is hearing the moaner giggling, and then the phone ringing. Very, very bleak, very, very upsetting. I think it was really great. I kind of want to, you know, as we're starting to wrap things up, we've talked quite a bit about like the feminist themes and the classicist themes and the misogyny that's present in this movie. But how do we feel that this ties together from our queer perspective, since that is the whole point of our podcast?
For me, it is so much more feminist than it is queer. I think those are those are two things that need to work in tandem for us to successfully address heteronormativity and toxic masculinity, which are also allies that we must then fight against. But I couldn't find a queer hero. I think even Billy's trauma seems to be so mired in parents and him maybe babysitting this younger sister Agnes, and then her having a problem, from what I could piece together of the inaudible whispers that the subtitles gave me, which also rude. Like, I can hear them, and all Tubi gave me was inaudible whispers. I do think, like, I wish there was more for us as a queer story, but I think that queer theory can't succeed without feminist theory. And I think you need successful feminist art in order to have successful queer art. And I need and appreciate this film for everything it gives us. But I don't see a lot more queer subtext, besides some of the humor that maybe we could read into some of the house itself.
That's so smart, and what a great poll.
I'm very much in agreement with you, David. I think it is interesting to see this movie as it's not a condemnation of queerness at all. I don't see that at all in this movie, but I think it is kind of interesting to see this more as a condemnation, or no, I'm not even going to say condemnation. I think it's interesting to see this movie as a microcosm of the vulnerable populations that exist in our society and have always existed in our society, and how very easily those things could be dismantled from within, because we will have, our guardrails are not actually meant to protect us. The people that we can count on as allies are not always there to be our allies, and the ones who are there are in a very small population. I think a lot of this is based off of, like, I think it was such a great pull earlier to say that no one is accusing anyone of being at fault within the sorority girls for what has happened thus far. I think that shows that community of vulnerable populations, when pulled together, can protect each other and have self-reliance and the ability to practice autonomy, which is critical. But it just shows that, like, in a world where there are many hostile forces at work and are in control of the levers of power, how very easy that is to see our protections that we create fall apart. And I think in that sense it is queer, because it does show that, like, what we are meant to count on as the proper structured society is not going to be there all the time, or is in many ways actively working against us, and why it is important to see each other and rely on each other and have mutual support for one another.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
I buy that. That's wonderful.
Any other final thoughts for this episode? Anything either of you wanted to point out, or any other conversations that you want to have?
Yeah, there's one thing. I think you could tell from the way that I talked about it that I've really, like, turned around on this movie, but I think I accidentally Stockholmed myself into liking this one.
Because you did the notes. This is the problem with doing the notes, Marilee, is that you're like, oh, I love this movie because I've watched it 3 times now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, because, like, again, I always watch it once for me, just, like, get an understanding of it, and then, like, this one I like, tried to do the notes for like at least twice before I managed to watch it all the way through, and then I do it once when I'm doing my part of the notes, like my personal takes. Because, like, when I watched the movie for the first time, I remember thinking, it's the 70s, like, things are a little bit longer, you don't have to have as much stuff to, fight the attention span. It was, like, 3 hours. What do you mean this movie was 97 fucking minutes? I genuinely was shocked that it was so short, because I thought, the first time I watched it, I thought it was, like, a little long. But
Act 2, baby. Act 2. It's Act 2 is long. It's a long third of the movie.
Yeah.
But, like, genuinely, like, by the third time I was, like, watched the end of the film, and, like, our conversation too is, like, made me even more for it. I really genuinely think that there's a lot to appreciate in this movie. So what I'm saying is, if you do watch Black Christmas and you think it was a little dull, watch it 2 more times in a short order. You'll like it a lot more by the end, I promise.
Yeah.
I totally get why this is a cult favorite, and I very much appreciate that we watched it for its historical relevance to other things that we're going to do for the podcast. I think this is a must watch for anyone who's interested in horror. And then I think it's also a very scary movie.
Yes, I agree. Plus, like, if you are interested in the politics of horror as well, this one does such a great job of integrating politics into the horror of the plot line. So although we have something that seems very facetious and out there as the idea that there is a serial killer in your attic stalking and killing all of you one by one, which is, I will say, pretty rare.
Yeah, but I'm just throwing it out there because I'm a pedant. He's more of a spree killer, because part of the aspect to be a serial killer is you have to have a cooldown period in between kills. If he is the moaner is responsible for the death of the 13-year-old girl in like the park near the house, which I think is plausible, then this is all happened within like a 2 to 3 day time span, which is not enough to make him a serial killer unless there have been crimes that we are not privy to. So he's a spree killer. So sorry to be that guy.
How dare you?
How would we know, Marilee? How would we know? The police keep no records of anything that's happened to this town.
For real.
Yeah. Oh, actually, that does bring it up. Do you think that the moaner is also responsible for what happened? Like, okay, yeah. So you know.
I don't, because it's just too disconnected with the house, and the house seems to be connected to Billy's trauma.
I also think it's...
Oh, interesting.
I also think that this is a time period where, we're coming off of, like, the Manson murders were a few years beforehand. Extremely shocking, gripped the nation. And I'm sure, like, Canada also felt the repercussions of that.
Of course they did.
And, of course, the violence that's present on TV all the time because of Vietnam. The idea that... And this is a very dark, nihilistic time. And so the idea that there would be a murder of a young girl that is entirely unrelated to the spree killings that are happening in a sorority house. See, I used the term correctly there, Marilee.
Mm-hmm.
I think is very par for the course. I think that is very much of its time period.
Have you heard of the lead paint theory?
Vaguely.
Well, so like lead was like lead paint was like the most common thing. It was also like leaded gasoline was very much used during this time period. And so if you look at like the amount of lead just in the atmosphere just around in Western culture and the rise of serial spree violent crimes and stuff like that, you'll see that as soon as we stopped using lead in like paints and lead gasoline, the amount of like serial killers and stuff that we are aware of, they're like those famous like mass killings, sharply declines.
Interesting. Lead paint theory? Is that what you said?
Lead paint, lead gasoline, like one of the symptoms of lead poisoning is an increase in violent behavior and a decrease in like the ability to like regulate your own emotions.
Interesting. I'm gonna look into that. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
The lead killed the Romans too. Like lead is terrible, Tyler.
Lead is so bad for you.
You do not need to tell me
stop
that lead
eating
is bad
lead.
for me.
Stop eating lead, Tyler.
I had a Florida education, but I do know that lead is something you probably should not consume.
Here's the deal. You don't need lead poisoning to know that Phil's boyfriend, Patrick, while dressed up as Santa, is the hottest man in this movie.
Thank you.
I will not take any comments. He is perfect. I love his frizzy hair. I love his giant glasses, and I love him in a Santa outfit. Justice for Patrick. You were not in the movie enough.
David, I'm so happy that you and I have the same taste in men, because when I saw him, I was just like, oh my god, he is such a cutie.
Good job, Phil. Good taste in men.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else,
270.
Chris is okay. Chris is okay because of the coat.
I love Chris's
I actually
coat.
think Chris's hair also kind of works.
Chris's hair was okay.
Yeah.
Chris's hair was okay with the coat. Perfect man. Jess, I love you. Terrible taste in men.
Oh my god.
Absolutely the
Sweetheart.
worst guy.
You could do so much. You're hot and British, girl.
Thank you.
Oh, and she had just been in very famously Romeo and Juliet at that time, the film adaptation. Yes, that was her big break, and that was what caught the director's attention to cast her in this movie.
only because you brought up Romeo and Juliet, I will tell you that she is most recognized from her role in Romeo and Juliet. But she did a film with Steve Martin, and Steve Martin said, "I am your biggest fan" to her, and she goes, "Oh yeah, I was Juliet." And he goes, "No, from Black Christmas," and she said it was the only time that someone famous had recognized her from this film, and for it to be Steve Martin was so touching for her. And I found that in my background research, and I was like, "There's gonna be no way I can talk about this unless one of them bring up Romeo and Juliet." And here you were, Tyler, bringing up Romeo and Juliet.
It is my Christmas gift to you, David.
Thank you.
My non-denominational holiday gift.
I would like the receipt so I can return it for store credit.
Okay, well, that hurt my feelings, but whatever.
Oh my god. Well, thank you all so much for listening to this episode. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you're going to go caroling door to door, and you can find us at Fear Coded Pod on Instagram and Twitter, but be careful out there. There was a girl murdered in the nearby park.
Oh my gosh. This podcast, of course, is a proud part of the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective. If you'd like to listen to more queer media podcasts, check out the full roster of shows at glitterjaw.com. And there's a little present that we have for all of you, our listeners under the tree. So let's just get this opened here. Your present is in the new year. Your favorite podcast, Fear Coded, will be going weekly.
Yeah.
Starting January 6th, we will be releasing episodes weekly, and we'll start up with Janteenuary, a celebration of teens in horror all month long. We'll kick the new year off right with the 2022 novel by Grady Hendrix, My Best Friend's Exorcism. But until then, we say happy holidays and goodbye.
Happy holidays. Bye.